Let's go!
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. I am the CEO, Presidente, El Prezi, like they like to call me at the network of the Off the Ball network as well. So, the New York Knicks draft is coming up. They hold the 11th pick. So, pretty much the show is going to talk about a lot of the prospects I feel like are going to be there at number 11, and maybe a certain situation where they move up and take a certain guy from Purdue. So that's all that we're going to discuss today. So it's going to be a fun show. So let's dive right into it. The New York Knicks obviously did not have the season we all expected. It was a tough season. After having a season where they were the fourth seed, had a home playoff, home court advantage, lost in 5 to Atlanta, and then this season kind of ran it back with the same people, essentially the same team, and it just didn't go the way we all anticipated in New York Knicks world. And so they're here with the 11th pick. So what do they do at number 11? There's a few ways they can go, and I want to talk about the first thing, and that's the possibility of maybe trading up to number 4 with the Sacramento Kings to get Jaden Ivey. And that's kind of been the hot thing right now. A lot of Knicks fans are, and I've seen this a lot in Knicks Twitter world. They were hot. They liked Ivy from, from the jump. He was someone when season started unraveling. There was possibilities that maybe we can if maybe if the NBA gods bless us finally, and didn't go that way. With the lottery, which it usually never does for the Knicks, but now there's a possibility, and there's been rumors. Some people have reported that the Knicks, as well as other teams, Detroit, San Antonio. There's other teams that are trying to move up to 4. And what the thinking is that Sacramento, obviously they have the 4th pick, and the best player right there is Jaden Ivey. The consensus is that the top 4 is whether in no particular order, but usually the top 3 is whether it's Paolo, Jabari, Chet, and then 4 for the most part is Jaden Ivey, and then you have a little bit of a dip, but those 4 guys are presumed as the blue chip prospects in this class. But if you're Sacramento, and Sacramento has drafted unconventional, not bad players, but just unconventional, taking a lot of guards, Tyrese Halliburton, when they had Duren Fox and Davion Mitchell last year, all good players, by the way. And obviously they stripped off Halliburton to get Sabonis. So them taking Ivy would give him a lethal backcourt, maybe the fastest backcourt maybe that we've seen, because those 2 guys are just blurs. And just tremendous first steps. I mean, that's the one thing you just harp about with Ivy is that first step. That first step is just, you don't see a lot of players who have a first step like him and add the explosiveness. But Sacramento wants to win. Then they made that trade, although I still perplexed why they made it. Because I'm just a big Halliburton guy, and I think Halliburton can be an all-star. But they got back an all-star in Sabonis, just the upside. Sabonis is what he is right now, and it's still a all-star level player. But that to me symbolized that they want to win. So to me, that's why you're hearing that they're possibly trying to trade maybe for a vet that can help them. So that leads to me to the New York Knicks and what they can offer. Obviously, the first thing you listen to any Knicks fan, Julius Randle. The Julius Randle stuff, as far as trade going to Sacramento, I just don't see why Sacramento would do that, and you pair him up with Sabonis. To me, if you're Sacramento, that makes 0 sense why you would do that. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm not a cap guru and all that, but I want to ask people this. What if the trade is, let's say it's Obi Toppin, maybe Quentin Grimes, and a first, obviously the 11th pick, and then a first round pick next season, the Dallas pick next season that they'll get from the Porzingis trade. Would that be something that you would entertain? Would you like that if that's what the Knicks are proposing? And if you're the Knicks front office, all right, obviously you're not worried about what the Knicks fans are thinking about, because I think a lot of Knicks fans are high on Ivey, but Knicks fans kind of we tend to overrate some of our players. And a lot of people have harped on Obi and how he played the last few weeks, and he did play good, and that's good. That's what you want to see, because if he wasn't playing well in those games, we would have gotten on him. So it goes both ways. But you can't put too much stock into that. That's like the last few weeks of school. The teachers are not are just ready to just get the summer with, and so up students. So it's like that's kind of what the NBA season feels like, those last few weeks, that last month, so more so. So yes, you do take some good things from what Obi did, but let's face it, it's when you're not out, when you're kind of out of the playoff, you're out of the playoff picture, and you're not, and you're going against teams that are just not going in it because they either have their playoff spots locked up and they just don't want to get their guys hurt. But there's still some value to that. But if you think Jaden Ivey's the guy, and I've talked about this on a few shows on Knicks Fan Wild, and talked it with Mo, just talked about it a bunch with a bunch of people in general. If you think Ivey's the guy, and you think you can get to 4 without having to throw the bag to get, to throw 3 first-round picks and multiple players to get it, do it. And if it costs you a Quentin Grimes, and listen, I like Quentin Grimes. I think he's a good player. I liked him when they took him. I felt that it was that's where was the range I had him last year, going in that 25 to 30 range, 32 range. If you think Ivey's going to be an all-star, and I think he has all-star potential, I absolutely love him. I think he just obviously there's things he needs to work on, and we can go on all day about that, Ivey, but he has special tools. He has special tools, and he screams all-star. Like, he feels like he's an all-star type player. And I just think that might be worth it. That might be worth it. It might be worth it to move up to get him at 4 and have him as one of the faces of the franchise. Excuse me. It might be worth it. Now, it's going to cost. And I said this yesterday on Twitter. I was like, it's going to cost. It is not going to be cheap to move up, because you're moving up significant spots. Like, let's be real. And you're moving up to get a player that is a blue chip type of prospect. And it's going to cost you. And there's going to be a bidding war, because there's other teams that are going to want to move up. The team right behind Sacramento, Detroit at 5. They were probably one of the biggest losers of the lottery, because they were supposed to have higher odds, and then they wound up being outside that top 4. You wanted to be in the top 4. But there's obviously teams that are going to talk to Sacramento about 4, and that could raise the price up. And that's something you got to be wary of. You got to be wary of the possibility of that happening. And are you prepared? Are you going to be prepared to do that, and willing to give up significant assets to do it? So the Knicks are going to be involved. I would assume, like I said, I just mentioned Detroit possibly being involved. The Spurs, they looking for their blue chip type of player. So, what other teams could possibly, you know, maybe Oklahoma City tries to go back. They have multiple first round picks. Um, but I could see the Spurs really simply because the Spurs have multiple first round picks. The Spurs hold the ninth pick. And I believe they have the 20th pick and they have the 25th pick. And a couple players that'd be willing to move, so is that more enticing than what the Knicks can offer? I don't know. I don't know what the Kings are thinking because it is at the end of the day, it's the Sacramento Kings. It is the Sacramento Kings. So what what's gonna I think that's where the most intriguing thing about this draft is. That's the most intriguing thing um about this draft is when we went at four. We know the top three. We know, and especially with the trade with Houston trading Christian Wood to Dallas. Paolo's locked up at 3. Now, we're still hearing something. We're not sure if it's Jabari at 1, but let's just say it's Jabari at 1, Chet 2, Paolo 3. And then at 4, it starts. Like, we know it's most likely Ivey, but we don't know what team Ivey's going to go to. Is he a Sacramento King? Is he a Spurs? So that's the most intriguing thing about this draft is at 4. That's when things start getting spicy. Who's going to move up? How much did they give up? This is an opportunity for the Kings to maybe fleece someone, but it's the Kings, so we don't know. We don't know. Don't know what's gonna happen at 4. That's the crazy. We don't know. It's the Sacramento Kings. We don't know. So that's definitely something that is going to be so intriguing. So intriguing. But the Knicks have pieces to make it because they got some assets of picks. They got some young players, so that's going to be the interesting thing with the Knicks. If they can try to move up, could be a bidding war. And unless you're 1000% sure that, hey, that's our guy, we want him, and he's going to change this franchise, then you do it and you deal with the ramifications of not having your assets and losing some young players. But if you think he's the guy, and you think he's a game changer, then you do it. It's simple. But let's just be in a world where it doesn't happen and they stay put at 11. I'm going to talk about the first guy who's high on my board, who I absolutely love, and he's risen up the draft boards and that's Dyson Daniels from the G League Ignite. I think even a trade up for him is some because you hear, and his, like I said, his stock is absolutely just blowing up, especially since the combine. And I've been on him for kind of since the start of the season, this G League season. I just liked him a lot, and just liked his everything he could bring. Big wing that can handle the ball, got a nice floater, defense, some 7-foot, almost a 7-foot wingspan. Like, he's got everything you want. Obviously the shootings needs to improve, but I think that can get better at the next level. And he's someone that is mocked in the top 7. And Portland, to me, that's a spot, another trade spot. It is moving up to 7. I think you got to talk to the Portland about 7. I think that's a spot you could talk to because Portland wants to win. I know they had a dismal season last year and the whole Dame stuff. We don't know what Dame wants to do, but just from everything you hear, he wants to stay. He wants to stay in Portland. He likes Portland. So let's say he stays. I think that's another trade partner you could talk to Portland and move up. And if you think Dyson, I think if I'm the GM, if I'm Leon, in company, my 2 top guys are Ivey and Dyson. Ivey and Dyson to me are the 2 guys that I feel like can help change this team. And I think 7 might be more realistic, to move up to get. because I think Portland will try to trade that pick because to add another rookie and you want Dame to be happy. I think that's something that they try to look for a vet. Whether it's I don't know if Randall situation, if that's a trade spot for Randall. I think it's tough because his contract kicks in this year, and I think the Randall's thing is going to be tough, to move him, with the contract just starting. But I think that's something you talk to Portland, see you can move up to 7 if the Ivey stuff is just too expensive, because it could be really expensive to move up to 4. Because you're moving up 7 spots. Now moving up 4 spots can be more realistic. So I think that's and even 8. If Dyson drops to 8, Pelicans are kind of Pelicans had a hell of an end of the season, and you get a healthy Zion coming into this season, they may want to ship that off. So I think that's where you can those 4 to me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, most likely. I think it's in the middle, or maybe a little lower, 4 to 5. I think 7 to 8. Those picks, I think, are more possibility that they can move up if Dyson's there. And that's just me thinking. If I was a GM, those are my 2 top guys. Ivy can't get too expensive. If I can get Dyson, I think that could be more obtainable. So Dyson, just a tremendous player, man. Yeah, I just like all the tools he brings. Maybe he was the best player in that G League team. He just brings it. He brings it. Like I said, what he can do on and off ball as a secondary creator, as maybe possibly a primary creator. The Knicks kind of need that. They kind of need that. Still that a pace of play. He's good in transition. Got the long arms on defense. So he helps you on both sides of the ball. Helps you on both sides of the ball. That guard position was dreadful, especially defense. I mean, when they put Kemba and Fournier together, it was rough. It was rough, and I think that really hurt them at times last season. Even when so having a guy like that you can groom, I think it'd be great. I think he'd be great in a New York Knicks uniform. They really think he brings a lot on both sides of the ball, and he just really had a tremendous off season. Now he like I said, his stock went from possibly late lottery 20s to being in the top 7, 6. Like he can go that high, and it's pretty remarkable. But he's just a competitor, man. He's a competitor, and just did everything asked for that you want at the G League, and I think playing against pros and all that, and having that experience. But I think I buy the outside shot improving. I think it's definitely going to improve. So some things he has to improve on, obviously, but I think he's someone that's to be on the Knicks radar, and I think he can make a significant difference to this team. So if you know me, I love Dyson. I think Dyson in New York is something I want to see. Will we see it? Let's hope so. Let's hope so. It's definitely someone I like. Just transition, man, everything, man. You put him in transition with Obi, RJ, well, good things can happen. So Dyson Daniels would be great in New York. Let's talk about someone, the next guy I like, and that's Jaden Hardy, who's his G League teammate. Obviously, you look at the numbers, and you'd be like, "Oh man, like he ain't efficient. Like, why would we even entertain that? That doesn't even make sense." And listen, started off struggling, but this is a guy that's adapting, learning the game, playing against pros. Like that's not an easy transition. Not an easy transition. But man, can he got a smooth J. He's another guy who's quick. Just got handles, man. Had the best handles in his class. And towards the end of the season, the G League season, and it wasn't a great big sample size too. That's another thing you got to remember. Not a big sample size, but still, he just got that. He just got the bag. He's just a hooper, and I think we got to sometimes we just look at the numbers and all that and like, oh man, this is a guy that was projected to be a top 5 pick coming into this. And people I saw some mocks have him in the 40s, and I'm just like, that's absurd to have him in the 30s, 40s. Um, he's got range. Like I said, the passing is there. Like he has it. He has it, and we saw it. And um, obviously the efficiency and all that. But man, I think at the next level, you're gonna get yourself a guy who's a great bucket getter. He can get you buckets. Next guys will get you buckets. Don't have a lot of that. I think at the next level he'll work on the shot selection and all that. I think all that will come. All that will come. But he had a lot to deal with at, being the guy at the G League, and but he has the frame and all that. Like he just I love him. I love him. I never fell off the Hardy wagon. I'm still on it. I had him. I did a mock draft recently with my guy Mavs Draft. Um, Shout out to Rich for having me on that, and I took him at 12. And then at the moment, I took him at 12 too. Like, oh no, I took him. I took I took someone else in his, but my own mock draft, I took Hardy, and people were like, nah, that's crazy. Why would you do that? I was like, man, you guys gotta stop looking at the stats, stop looking at the numbers, watch what he did towards the end of the season. Man, he started to hoop, he started playing more efficient, playing more control, feeling more comfortable. And you put that at the next level. So at the a lot of the off season stuff, him in New York, oh man, that excites me. I feel like and his potential is still through the roof, man. You're getting yourself a potential guy that can give you 20 a game. Knicks guys can give you buckets. So Jaden Hardy, man, still high on him. Okay, so another guy that's mocked a lot to the Knicks, and a guy who, another guy, I think runner up for the National Player of the Year. Another guy who just gets buckets, tough. I mean, he fits New York. Johnny Day. He got that RJ mentality. Like they don't care. Like, yeah, they may not have the athleticism and all that, but they just got it. They got it. Smooth mid-range game, and didn't have a lot of talent around Wisconsin too. Like that's another thing too. People look at efficiency and all that. I think he shot like low 30s and 3. But man, he's tough. Both sides, great rebounding guard. I mean, he could get you 6, 7, 8 rebounds a game at his peak at the NBA level. He had like I think he averaged 6 or 7 in college. And like I said, didn't have a lot of space in Wisconsin. He's another one. Just gets you. He's a bucket getter, and is just not the athletic freak, but man, when I saw him a lot getting attacking and drive. He's not afraid to attack downhill, and that's what I love about his game, man. I really like Johnny Davis a lot, and think that he can really do some special things. Yeah, in the garden. And I know a lot of people ask me the fit with RJ and all that. It's like, hey, it may not be the most ideal fit, but at this point, you just get whoever. You get the talent. You take the best player. Because to me, one thing I don't like to do is reach for a positional need. I don't like doing that simply because you need a need. It's a point guard draft, right? They need a point guard, right? But there's not a lot of point guards in this draft, and I'll talk about one right after, obviously, next after this, after I finish Johnny Davis. Don't reach just because you need a point guard. If Johnny Davis is there and you're like, man, I don't know how it's going to work with him RJ initially, but hey, he's the best player. So we got to make it work. You got to make it work, and he's just a scorer. He's got the body, he's got the frame. He averaged 8 rebounds at Wisconsin. He averaged more. He averaged a steal a game. Plays the passing lanes good. Just man, he's just got it, man. He obviously just some things he needs to work on like fighting screens and all that. But just someone that and extending, not explosive. That's all right. I'm cool with that. I think the 3-point once there's more space, and I think he could be 35, 36% 3-point shooter. I truly believe that. I think that he didn't have that spacing at Wisconsin. And the playmaking and all that. Okay, I think he can get better at that with time. We're not asking him to be CP3. So, but I love Johnny Davis. I think he's going to be there. I think more than Dyson. I think Hardy will be there 11. I think Johnny Davis will be there 11 for sure. So Johnny Davis in New York to me is something I'm like, all right, next guy I want to talk to about TyTy Washington. Played a lot of off ball. Pun intended, no pun intended. Played a lot of off ball at Kentucky. And I think he's another one of those Kentucky dudes that we're going to see at the next level. Like, whoa, we didn't see that. They kind of get restricted at Kentucky. And I know a lot of people refer to this game, and it's against an inferior competition. It's against Georgia. But he had 17 assists game when he was the guy. I mean, it's Georgia, but you saw him when he was the guy, what he can do. And I love his passing. I love his shooting, his mid-range shooting. A lot of people talk about the second half of the season where he struggled. He was battling injury. I think he had an ankle injury that really hampered what he can do. But still, TyTy I think he's getting slept on. I think he's getting slept. At one point, he was like probably maybe overrated. People overrated him. Then they were all down on him. And I think he's someone that's kind of being back to being underrated and all that. But he's also shown that he could play off the ball, because he has that experience this year. So he's someone who is a point guard, played a lot of off ball at Kentucky. So he's showing, hey, he can play. Hey, he doesn't have to always have the ball in his hand. He can do some off ball creation, score off the ball and all that. So, not a crazy athlete and all that, but I think I love his shooting, love how he can do the pull up off screens, dribble handoffs. I just love all that. He's great. I think he's a good passer, really good passer. And I think if you trust him enough and you got the right coaching staff to round him, you can mold him into a lead guard. I think you can with scoring. A lead guard that could score a little bit, man. There's a lot of things. I know he can do with the floater. Another guy who's a good floater along with Dyson. I think the floater is something that, to see more incorporated. I think that's a value piece. And we're seeing a lot of that from Trae Young's. We've seen that from Quickly has shown that. I think that can give us a dynamic backcourt. You add a TyTy with Quick, you got something there. So I like him. I just think he's someone that's kind of being underrated in the process. I know now Knicks fans haven't been high on him. I've seen a lot of Knicks Twitter not crazy about him, but I've been on it since the jump, even after that first game against Duke, where he went against Trevor Keels. I'm like, and I'm a Duke fan, and I was like, hey, let's push the brakes, man. TyTy can still hoop. That's just one bad game, and he balled out for a lot of that. Struggled with the ankle, but to me, he's actually being underrated a lot. So, him in New York, I think would be even a trade back situation. I think the Knicks can trade back too if they feel like they can grab another pick or something, and none of their guys are there, and they feel like they can get TyTy later. That's something they can definitely do. So even on the defense side, he's solid too, man. But he create off off the dribble with the ball, without the ball. I like TyTy a lot. So TyTy is all right. So another wing I'm gonna talk about is AJ Griffin. Obviously, AJ tremendous, 5-star recruit, all that. I think a lot of people down on him early because he battled injuries, then super high with people talking about him maybe being better prospect than Paolo. And then kind of back down on him. I feel like people are down on him again. And I understand why some of the things, and it's mainly the injury history. I know people harp on the defense. Oh, he's just terrible. And listen, he's not a great defender. Let's just be real. But there's a lot of guys in the league that a lot of the elite scorers in this league are, let's face it, not good defenders. And it's not really about being, a Dennis Rodman or a Michael Jordan or a Gary Payton type defender anymore. Kawhi. It's about just buying in a little bit. You just got to buy in a little bit on defense. And I think he can do that at the next level. So the defense, I'm not overly concerned about because that's a lot to do with his being healthy too. And for me, with him, with the injuries, That's the biggest thing. He was injured a lot in high school, injured a lot to start at Duke, but he could shoot that thing. He could shoot that thing. And that's something the Knicks need. They need some scores, and he's a great ISO creator. He's someone that, you know, like I said, need guys that could score. He could shoot the ball. I think he shot 40% from three. And this is, um, this is in limited time, and still shot the ball relatively well. And that's with having Paolo and Wendell Moore and all that. And just imagine if he was able to have more the ball in his hand. I think he could have done even more damage. But he's 44% for three exactly. I had the numbers right here. He's someone that could drop. There's always that one guy that drops, and I could see AJ dropping. I don't think he's going to drop that far. I think he can, if Portland keeps it, I think he goes to Portland. So I don't think this is more of like if that one guy that drops, this is the guy that drops. And if he's at 11, Knicks really need to consider him at 11. Because he can be an all-star level player. He has that potential. So can handle the ball. Obviously the playmaking needs some work, but man, at the next level, I think he can improve on those things. I think it's just the injury things. If he wasn't an injury risk, he's in that top. He's going to Sacramento. But the injury things, I think, can have him drop. But could be a steal at 11 if the Knicks can get them that way. So AJ Griffin possibly. So this player. All right. So we're going to talk about Mark Williams. Obviously, this all harps on Mitch. Mitch is an unrestricted free agent. He's obviously going to be courted Chicago, Charlotte, bunch of teams. So to me, Mark Williams, this all hedges on Mitch. If Mitch is not there, you really got to consider Mark Williams. He's essentially Mitch, and with a maybe a little bit more offensive potential than Mitch had. I think there was a stat, something crazy, like he only took like 4 shots outside the restricted area. So like Mitch just never improved offensively like we thought he would. But Mark Williams, man, he just eats everything up in the interior. Obviously a defensive menace, rim runner, and all that. You're essentially getting a cheaper version of Mitchell Robinson with Mark Williams. And he was a big reason why Duke went on their run to the Final Four. He was huge on that. So Mark Williams being there, that's definitely something I have to consider if Mitch is not going to be there long term. So obviously free agency starts after the draft, which doesn't really make sense, but because you would rather have the free agency first, and you can, all right, we didn't get our guy, so we'll draft this, but give or take, that's going to happen. So Mark Williams, definitely got to consider him with that 11th pick if he's there. And lastly, another player, Jalen Duren. Physical freak. Love his passing in the post. That's to me his most underrated aspect of his game is that passing in the post. Had a really kind of bum situation at Memphis. It was kind of a lot of turmoil and all that. Penny just didn't have them, even though they did play great late, but tough situation. But he's a physical freak. You can see why people compared him to Dwight Howard. I mean, he's essentially 7 foot, 250 pounds, 7'5" wingspan. Just physical to it, but he is super raw still. Super raw. But I think there is potential with a little midi. I think he showed that a little midi. Like I said, these two players are talking about Mark Williams, and I think can give you some. I'm not saying they're going to be that, but especially with Duren, I think there is some upside with a little mid-range game. But he's going to eat everything inside, rim running and all that. Like you get him even if the Knicks don't get it, the guard, or they add like a Tyus Jones or say something like that, you have him in pick and rolls with Duren, man, he could be special, man. He could be really special. Pick and pops a little. That's only going to make his game better if he can get that pick, like that little midi, like consistent. If he gets that consistent, man, how do you defend a guy like that in the pick and roll? So to me, Duren is someone that is really could be special, real special at the next level. Has all the tools, man. Super raw though, but all the tools you want in a big. And I think he's another guy that could slide. slide back end of in the lottery, back end lottery into the 20s. I did a mock. I had him in 20. I think I had him late teens, 20s. I could see him dropping, but it could team could pay. But essentially those are the guys I think the Knicks are going to be looking at 11. So we'll see what happens. Draft is coming up soon. Very excited about that. It should be fun. Excited about what the Knicks are going to do. And all that. So let me know how you felt about who's available. Is there anyone else you feel like the Knicks should consider at 11? There's some sleepers in the second round. They Knicks might be able to get a guard. I think in the second round, there's some guards that I like in the second round. Then like Jordan Hall, Alonzo Williams. There's some guys in the second round. They may be able to get a potential guard, point guard later on in this draft, or maybe get an outside shooter like a Max Christie. Even though Max Christie probably gonna get to the first round, Trevor Keels, something like that. Who else am I thinking of point guard wise? Potentially. Like I said, I mentioned Jordan Hall, Hugo Besson, from New Zealand, playing the NBL, for the New Zealand Breakers, there's some guys, that they could potentially take, even later on, take a chance on like a JD Davison, who was super high on early in the season, but, fell back a little bit, but has this, the freaky athlete, and all that. Maybe they take a chance up on him, and all that, so we'll see what happens. Maybe Kenny Chandler drops, if Kenny Chandler drops, I know people talk about his height, but if he drops to the late Knicks, maybe try to trade back up. If he drops to the late 20s, Knicks maybe try to trade back up to go get him. I think that's something I wouldn't be opposed to, if they do. So that, I think the Knicks can come out of this draft, feeling good, getting a, G Montero. There's some guys that can get in the second round too. So, it's not all end all be all if they don't get their guard. I think you take the best player available. It's one of those guys, you do it. So very excited. Can't wait for the draft. It's Thursday. Cannot wait. It's always an exciting time. Hopefully, we're not get too used to being in the lottery, but, let's see what happens. Knicks hold the 11th pick, 42nd pick. We'll see what happens. It's going to be exciting. Appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Going to have some details on what I'm going to do draft day. I know the Off the Ball Net, we are definitely doing something, covering drafts. My guy Ken's going to be covering the draft. So tune into that. We'll be live, talking about all the picks there. I might be on some other platforms. Going to let you guys know. Make sure to follow Off the Ball Pod to find out, what I'll be doing exactly draft day. Might be doing some big things on a big stage. So excited about the possibly dropping. So on that note, be well, be safe, take care. Also, go to offtheballnetwork.com. I'm going to be dropping my big board probably this week. Final mock draft. I either will be doing a show or dropping it on the network. Either way, I'll have either way, it's going to be on offtheballnetwork.com, and I'll possibly be doing a follow-up with a live show. And maybe do one live mock. I haven't been able to do my mock drafts like I did in the previous years. Work crazy. So usually I have a couple prospects on. Didn't get to do that this year, but work's crazy, man. Work, kids, just didn't have the time to do that. But hopefully follow up. I'll have a lot of the draft guys on. I got a few guys that I haven't that I didn't get to talk to this draft cycle, but hopefully get them on and recap the draft after that. But on that note, be well, be safe, take care. Let's go Knicks. And hopefully things go well in the draft and we're going to come up. So take care, guys.
Start spreading the news.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.